Abusalama, Palestinian academic, artist and activist from the Jabalia region originally. Welcome to your show, UK. Thank you so much for making time today when you've had such upsetting news, I understand.
That's right, and to be honest, I'm still struggling to understand who's exactly dead and who's exactly alive.
What is the incident that's happened?
I'm getting different news from different sources, and basically there are three of our loved cousins who are either dead or severely wounded. They were going to allow the hospital to pick up some medicine when Israel, without a prior warning, bombed Al-Auda hospital. And this is how precarious life is in Gaza right now. And I can't speak to my mom because she's crying, and everyone is unavailable. They're digging graves, and it's overwhelming times. It's overwhelming times. And these are the ones that are digging graves right now in Al-Nusayrat refugee camp, are the ones that have been just displaced from northern Gaza.
Yeah, it's obviously here in the UK we read these things and we see the images and we see the aftermath, and it's very easy to forget that these are real people, these are lives being wrecked. We risk being, I don't know, immunized against it to a degree as it continues to happen. But when you hear incidences like this, and certainly as we're presenting the show today, and we're hearing this coming through literally as we were about to go to air, that this tragic happenstance is happening, you're still trying to get the details with. This is your own family that's directly affected. It should be making us all think a lot harder that what if this was us, to remember to try and put ourselves in the position of the people of Palestine at the minute, in Gaza and the West Bank, and I think it's very difficult to comprehend quite what you're going through at this point in time.
If this televised genocide was perpetrated against any other people, the response from the international community would have been much different. But it is because the Palestinians that are being slaughtered in their hundreds of thousands, the world is allowing this to continue, and they're turning our mass slaughter into spectacles and depoliticized spectacles. Just yesterday, Trump and Netanyahu, as both of them are waging this genocide for nearly 2 years nonstop, are speaking of a historic day for peace for the world. And they're busy generating spectacles about demilitarizing resistance groups that exist in the Arab region and in Palestine, that existed as a response to Israel's crimes, to the systematic crimes against the Palestinians. And no one is speaking about demilitarizing an apartheid state, a settler colonial state, a state that has disrespected international law and everything that humanity has believed in, and everything that the whole world order that became that got designed after World War II in the name of never again is all rendered meaningless because of all of this. And everyone is acting as if this is not happening. I don't know what is going on. It cannot get more apocalyptic, and the world needs to wake up. This is not just Gaza.
No,
not just our people under threat. This is whole of humanity under threat. And it doesn't need to be your own family that you're digging their own graves, your own.
Yeah, can you imagine that at home, digging your own family's graves? I mean, what you're hearing here right now is live testimony, living testimony of what has happened to somebody's family in Gaza. We've heard it happen to so many families in Gaza now, and it keeps happening day after day after day, and our governments don't do anything about it, do they? They just carry on, and they just keep making excuses for Israel. It is inexcusable, and international law is being wrecked. It is being derailed and destroyed here.
From the beginning of this genocide, we warned this is not a war. This is a blatant genocide conducted openly with international community and, of course, full sponsorship from the US. The US, this snake, cannot pretend to be speaking on behalf of humanity and democracy and acting towards ensuring a long-lasting peace and all this bullshit. They're speaking about peace. Peace for whom? Peace for whom? As the perpetrators of the genocide are sitting together in direct contravention of the ICC arrest warrants that have been issued against this criminal that is called Bibi Netanyahu. And they're exchanging love messages on Press TV while our people are being bombed and slaughtered yesterday. And the background of this press conference that you all watched, Israel bombed dozens of homes in northern Gaza, including my uncle Diab's home, the father of Aboud Abusalama and Muhammad Abusalama, two journalists who have been reporting from the front line for more than 2 years.
I'm glad you brought up the Labour conference, actually, because, of course, there were arrests there yesterday of people peacefully sitting there defending Palestine, defending a pro-Palestine direct action group that has been farcically labelled what it has been labelled. But of course, that says it all, doesn't it? Support for Palestine is unacceptable. Yet, for some reason, for this government that is currently patting itself on the back here in Liverpool, it is acceptable. I really can't. There's no humanity in that, is there? Shahd Abusalama, I would love to speak to you more, but I would like to pass on our absolute condolences, all of our love here at your show. Would you like to make one more point before I let you go?
I want to wish you all the best with all your endeavors, and I see familiar faces on the panel, and it's warming my heart. Despite all of this, we will not give up, and we will keep fighting. I just need you to not forget that we are struggling on all levels. We are being silenced. We are being killed, we are being uprooted, and we are at the same time struggling to survive and to keep our families alive amid constant bombardment and deliberate impoverishment of our people. And every means of survival is being destroyed by Israel. The burden is too great. My mom belongs to a family of 12. She has 12 sisters and brothers. My dad has 8 others. And imagine, like thousands. I have a massive extended family. We are the only branch of the family who are outside Gaza and in a relatively safe space. And we ourselves are uprooted and have lost everything. We cannot do this alone, and we cannot keep on facing these horrors and keeping our families alive alone. We need everyone to chip in whatever they can, even if they can sacrifice one coffee a day to support the families who are continuing to exist in Gaza. Because the plan all along is to empty Gaza of its people. And we shouldn't just keep the people alive, although this is a duty, but we should do our utmost best to give them a life in freedom and dignity as deserved and as entrenched in international law.
Thank you so much for joining us. We will not stop talking about this. We on the left, I certainly won't. I talk about it every day on my YouTube channel. I won't stop talking about it. And the other two guests we've got on here today won't either, of that I'm sure. Asa Winstanley and John McEvoy, Electronic Intifada and Declassified UK. Two absolute stalwarts, two people worthy of the name journalist. And I look forward to speaking to them next. Shahd Abusalama, thank you so much for joining us. Please go with all our love.
Thank you, Palestine.
Free Palestine indeed. John, Asa, I hope you heard all of that. What's on your minds after hearing that story now?
Yeah, it's very difficult to hear. Really, sending all our solidarity and love to our colleague Shahid, of course, and yeah, I mean, this is somebody who's worked all her life for Gaza, for Palestine, for the freedom of Palestine, and now is just watching her family, like so many other people in Gaza, just watching her family being killed one by one. It's a tragedy. It's more than a tragedy. It's a crime. It's the Holocaust of our time, and it's it's very difficult. We can have. I'm so glad you had Shahid on the program because it brings it much more down to home and more down to reality, and it's not just a matter of abstract numbers and these sort of fake peace conferences and so forth. There's been so much talk over the last 2 years of a ceasefire. It's become a process in itself. The whole farce of the so-called Oslo Accords in the 90s was stretched out over decades, years and decades, that it became an infamous sort of peace process industry, a self-perpetuating machine, which was really an industry, really was an industry, a peace process industry where there was, millions and millions in funding went into NGOs to kind of sustain this farce of negotiations, which actually went nowhere and were really a mask for Israel to colonize more and more of Palestinian land, especially in the West Bank, and to extend further control in the Gaza Strip. Now, what we're seeing over the last 2 years is what I've called a kind of ceasefire process, where you have just perpetual talk about ceasefires, and we have this farce of the US president, whether it's Joe Biden before or now Trump, sort of saying, well, we're going to have this ceasefire and the Israelis have agreed to it. And it's all down to Hamas to now show they're willing to have peace. When it's actually the reality is that the Palestinian side has accepted ceasefire after ceasefire proposal, only to be told at the last minute, well, actually the Israelis are not accepting it, and what the Israelis are actually putting into place are an agreement which in name is a ceasefire, but it's not a ceasefire because they're going to continue fighting. They're going to stay in the Gaza Strip and they're going to continue fighting. And that's what we've seen again today with this latest so-called ceasefire, where the Israelis will stay in most of Gaza and the Palestinians are meant to give up their weapons. Well, where's the Palestinians' right to defend themselves? Nobody ever talks about that. There's this idea that Israel carrying out a genocide in the Gaza Strip is so-called Israel's right to self-defense. It's utter rubbish. What about the Palestinian right to self-defense?
Declaring a ceasefire when something like this just happens. Where is the ceasefire? John McEvoy, welcome to the show. Thrilling to speak to you. What's your take on this news?
Us. Yeah, I just want to echo a lot of what Asa just said. Send our love to Shahd. Yeah, I mean it's like Asa said, this is the Holocaust of our time. Yeah. One of the key differences is at the moment you have kind of the live testimonies coming out of Gaza, telling the world, telling the states that are supporting this precisely what is happening. As earlier we had Shahd on with us, minutes after three of her relatives were potentially killed in Gaza. So, in that sense, it's worse because the UK, the populations of the UK, of the US, of the West can never say that they didn't know, can never claim ignorance, can never
No.
claim naivety.
No, I mean,
This has been
actually,
in our
that
face.
leads me quite nicely onto one of the questions I've got for you, actually, John, because it's the West's hidden role, Britain's hidden role. I mean, you guys at Declassified have been pumping out article after article, exposing the surveillance, exposing the arms sales, exposing the cover-ups. Who, in concrete terms, is, apart from the obvious being Israel, who is benefiting from the destruction of Palestinian land? And does this so-called ceasefire that's just been announced play into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you obviously already mentioned Israel, but I think with the framing of the question, a lot of people kind of present the destruction of Gaza as some accidental byproduct of what they would call a war rather than genocide. But obviously, the destruction of Gaza isn't a byproduct; it's a fundamental component of the genocide, right? The idea is to make Gaza unlivable, and ultimately empty of the region of its indigenous population. So, the destruction of Gaza is, a direct benefit to Israel's goals at the moment. And you're also seeing under the fog of war, the West Bank being settled at rates not seen in decades. Making the idea of a two-state solution, whatever relevancy it had before this, but obviously now it's a total farce, and this is the line, the track that the UK government is supposedly following with the recognition of a Palestinian state. I mean, why is it precisely recognising, and is the UK government going to actually make any actions towards making a Palestinian state a possibility, on a material possibility on the ground? And I think the answer to those questions is no. So it's symbolic gesturing, right? But in terms of in the West, who's benefiting, the arms corporations, obviously. I mean, BAE Systems, one of the key suppliers of the F-35 supply chain, the F-35s that have been dropping £2,000 bombs on civilians, men, women, and children in Gaza for the past 2 years. I mean, their share price skyrocketed by about 35% in the first year of the genocide. Then, even after the UK arms suspensions, arms corporations are still raking it in off the genocide. You've got corporations like Martin Baker that supply the F-35 fighter jet seats and the trainer aircraft seats, Moog that supplies the M346 Lavi that's used to train the Israeli pilots to fly the F-35s and F-16s. I mean, it was just revealed earlier today by Channel 4, using Israeli tax authority data, that UK exported 110,000 bullets to Israel last month. How does that fit into the arms suspensions? So, these arms firms are still raking it in despite the suspensions. And there's many people in Parliament that, work for or have shares in these companies. So you've got parliamentarians who are making decisions with regards to UK foreign policy, to Israel and to Palestine, who are making money off that. You also got the British, oil and gas multinationals. BP was awarded a license in, I believe, late October 2023, if not early November 2023, to explore for gas around Gaza. Around about the same time, BP was holding private meetings with the Israeli ambassador in London, Cipiotaveli, one of the most genocidal diplomats, I believe, who has ever been positioned in the UK. And then there's lots of, sorry.
Ever cursed our soil, I was going to say. If I can come back, thank you so much for that, John. Asa, as I go in hand with what John has been saying there, what we've heard from Shahd, you have obviously the efforts to silence journalists. You know a thing about this, of course. They do it under the banner of anti-Semitism for one, which you literally wrote the book on. And of course, you've had your own, I know you spoke about it earlier in the free speech segment, about your little visit with the police. I mean, this is the classic tactic that's ended up shaping public debate, isn't it?
That's right. Before I talk about that, I've got an update from Shahd. She's just sent me a message to say that unfortunately it is now confirmed that her relatives, her three relatives were killed by the Israelis. Abdul Fattah Abu Luz, her maternal uncle, and two of his grandchildren, who were 11 and 12 years old. He was going to pick up medicine from Al Auda Hospital when Israel bombed the security room of the hospital, committing a massacre. So that's confirmed from what Shahid said earlier on the stream. So,
My God.
of course, we send all our condolences to Shahid and her family, and it's terrible news. It's just more. This is happening every day. It's happening constantly, and it doesn't stop. For all the talk of peace, this hypocritical farce of talking about having a ceasefire and so forth. This is the reality of what's happening now. So yeah, I mean, and that, as you said, like this is extended to this country, and not only this country, the repression here and trying to stop people from talking about it. And I think John and his colleagues at Declassified have done a really outstanding job of really reporting over the last 2 years about the issue of British involvement in this genocide, like active involvement. Like, we used to talk about complicity, but what John and his colleagues there have really shown that it's much more active than simple complicity. It's not just being involved in the genocide as if it was some sort of accident. The British state is very, very deeply involved and an active, enthusiastic participant in this genocide, even to the extent of going to lengths to try and disguise their involvement in it to a massive amount. And Declassified have really done a great job of reporting on that, and they really put the mainstream media to shame in that. And yeah, they try and stop such reporting from happening. Like, the latest on that was, we've seen that it's getting really petty, where they've denied Declassified's request for a lobby pass in Parliament to try and actually hold politicians to account to talk about this. And they're claiming it was due to lack of space, which is nonsensical. But we're pushing back against that. And yeah, I, like many others, have been repressed by the British state as well. So for people who don't know, in October last year, so nearly a year ago now, I was raided. My office here was raided by police in a dawn raid, and it was an illegal raid. And a few months ago, we actually, backed by the NUJ, the National Union of Journalists, we actually went to court, and the court ruled that was an illegal raid. They seized all my devices that I use for my journalism. They specifically targeted the devices that I use for journalism. And and it was under counter-terror laws, these so-called counter-terror laws, where they have sweeping powers that are similar laws to what are being used against Palestine Action and so forth. And they accused me of it because of my journalism, and specifically because of my tweets. They accused me of supporting a banned terrorist organization. This was, of course, before the ban on Palestine Action, but they were talking about Palestinian banned groups. And so, if you report on that, has a very chilling effect when you want to report on what's actually happening in Palestine and what Palestinians are actually doing. And so that's what they did. They swept up all my devices, and they wanted to search them, but we actually got the court to stop them doing that, and they were forced by the court to return my devices. And so that, thanks to the outpouring of outrage that there was about the raid, from NUJ members and from our readers, electronic Intifada readers and viewers, and the general public. I think that definitely helped with our case in court. We got those devices back, and that gives a kind of degree of protection to my sources.
Yeah.
So that was a good result, but they're still saying that there's a criminal investigation ongoing.
Yeah,
It's like a lot of people, they keep these things hanging over your head. We're trying to get them to drop that.
It's complete persecution at the end of the day. It's trying to cave people into silence. I think, needless to say, gentlemen, this was not the show I expected to be presenting this afternoon. But with 4 minutes left, I understand Shahd is still on the line, and I would like to give her the the last comment on this segment, if you would like it. My final question. She's actually gone. Okay, I beg your pardon. Okay, in that case, gentlemen, I'll ask you the closing question I was going to ask her then, which is basically, in a sentence, what's the most I can't even get my words out now. What's the most urgent action that people should be taking at home right now? John?
I mean, Shahd mentioned at the start of this phone call, there are obviously a lot of things we can be doing, pressuring our governments and so on and so forth, but there is a famine in Gaza right now. And there are individuals and organisations that you can fund in Gaza to at least, keep people there alive. And obviously the next question is seeking accountability from our political leaders and ensuring that they see their day in court. But the immediate issue, at least as I see it, is supporting the people who need just basic food necessities at the moment.
Thank you. Asa, 1 minute left.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of projects. Aid can't get in for a large part, but there's mutual aid organisations that help to try and get funding to people to survive on a basic level. And one of the ones that is the main one that's communicating that is the Samir Project, SAMEER. If people want to look that up, and of course, political pressure and activism. People are pushing back against the ban on Palestine action. Boycotting Israeli products. And all these things definitely help, and pushing for, I think as well, the political level of pushing for an anti-Zionist policy within your party would definitely make a big difference.
Yeah, that's been a bit of a dividing line in that party, isn't it? But we'll be talking about your party policy later on this afternoon, funnily enough. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Shahd, thank you so much. As I said a moment ago, this is not the show I expected to be presenting this afternoon. It's not just for six here to literally be dealing with such news as it's happening is really bringing it home, and I hope it is to you as well, because it should be. We can't forget what is going on here. Those responsible for it, those in power in this country or anywhere else in the West, those who are responsible for it in the Middle East and enabling it and farcically saying they're promoting a peace plan now. This is not peace. This is proof, literally, as we're speaking here and now, this is not peace. So don't forget what's going on in Gaza or the West Bank, or what Israel is doing and who is enabling them to do it. And yes, free Palestine. Then all our love once again to Shahd Abusalama.